Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that helps you become your best self. And today we are talking about how to become more likable, being approachable, and friendly. But before we get into that, as always, I want to invite you to come say hi to me on social media. I am at Sabrina Joy Perozzo on both Instagram and TikTok. So I look forward to seeing you there, saying hi, and becoming friends online. And if you need help spelling that name, check the show notes below, and it'll be written there, as well as links to sign up for the weekly newsletter that comes out on Wednesdays around 6 or 7 p.m. PST, and that has more behind the scenes on what's going on, what's coming up, a couple different, I would call articles, short articles, things that I'm learning in therapy, random thoughts, and I'm trying to add more fun things to share with you, mental health books and things I like to buy and favorite snacks and, just things to add more fun and interest to you reading a newsletter every single week. And there are other links that are down there that are helpful, are a link to purchase the journal planner hybrid that I created that will help just do short journal prompts every single day to help you do emotional growth and reflection that makes it really easy and efficient if you're interested in that. Also to do some emotional venting. I always forget what I want to say and how I want to say that. Because, a lot of times we want to just get something off of our chest because we'll feel a lot better about it. And it feels so good to verbalize it and helps us to move forward. But a lot of times we don't have someone in our life that is emotionally available to do that. And I've created a link where you can do that anonymously if you just need to get something off your chest. And I usually just check it every now and again. And I will pray over it, and that's it. So I will not know it's you. The last link I want to mention is also anonymous, and it's for you to suggest topic suggestions. So if you don't want to send it to the email address that's listed down there, and you don't want me to know that you suggested it, but you still want to suggest it, you can put it through that link, which is just a Google form. And again, it's anonymous, so I will not know it's you. So check that out, and anything else there down in the show notes and the actual notes to the show if you want to be able to pass those off to someone or kind of just review what we're talking about. But let's go ahead and jump into today's topic, which again is how to become more likable, being approachable, and friendly. So let me start by saying that I don't mean this topic to be in a people-pleasery type of way at all whatsoever. And I feel the need to say that off the bat because I don't want someone to be like, oh my gosh, this kind of goes against everything she talks about, where, we don't need that external validation from people being liked or whatever for us to grow and become our best selves, which is true. But there is a difference between needing to be liked and then wanting to be likable. And so I'm going to talk more about the likable side and not the need to be liked, because when we need to be liked, typically we are desperate and really doing anything we can to convince and sometimes manipulate others into liking us, even if it's just surface level, even if it's just for them to say to other people and to us that they like us, when maybe deep down they actually do not truly like us. It's just really for status and to pad our ego. And so I definitely wanted to make sure that we're aware that there is a really big difference between the need to be liked and the desire to be likable. Because when you want to be likable, you want to be someone that is approachable, someone that's open and just truly being themselves, trying to be your most authentic self and not trying to be out here, really fronting who you are and what you're all about. And being likable means that you aren't trying to be someone you aren't, right? You're not just trying to pretend that you are better than you are, or your status is higher than it is, or that you have this, that, and the other when you really don't. And when you have this need and dire and sometimes desperation to be liked, you will become whoever you need to be just to get the likes, basically. And this is very similar to people pleasing. And this is absolutely not what I'm talking about today. It's not the need to be liked. It's the desire to be likable, because it helps with creating connections and relationships and also encouraging us to be open and even more vulnerable in our lives, which is very, very important, actually. And it's often not until someone else brings it up that we realize we are not as likable as we think. And I laugh at that because in hindsight, I've had people say that to me, of course. And I always thought I was the most, likable person ever. I believe that I for sure was when I was heavy into people pleasing. But, as I was trying to like wean myself off of that behavior and that mindset, it became apparent that there are some behaviors and ways that I can, present myself that aren't always taken as likable. And again, people are going to have different perspectives, and some people might take things more serious than they should, meaning they might just like say that you do something that only offends them or only like makes them feel a certain way, and that's just because they're deciding to take that in the only way that they see it and not like a wider perspective, you know what I mean? And so this is not 100% foolproof. I do want to tell you that off the bat, because sometimes people just make molehills out make mountains out of molehills. That's how the phrase goes. Just make things bigger than they should be. But just in general, it can be really helpful to know when you are kind of putting off a vibe that isn't as likable as you want it to be, or that you thought that it was. So we can realize this, that we are not when someone tells us. It can also happen when we start to realize that the people we try to be friends with don't really reciprocate those feelings. They're like, they're backing away, they're like, I don't really want to be friends with you, or they pretend like they want to be your friend, and then you never talk to them again. You never speak to them. You never hear from them. It's just like, oh, I thought we were doing something here. And they're like, oh, really? Okay. And then they like slowly fall away. You know what I mean? And this isn't always true, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is where sometimes people just will not click with you, and that's just not like your people, and that's totally fine. But there are a lot of times where it just happens that you feel like you're trying to be that friend and likable, but really they're like kind of turned off by maybe some things that you're not realizing are happening, are going on. Uh, we just might not be as likable as we think. And I think that's okay. A lot of times we think we're giving off one vibe and we're actually giving off another. This can happen, when we have like managed to, well, this happens often. I feel like this is a big one that happens often. When we manage to gain friends and or like partners, romantic or whatever, as we as we currently are, right? And don't see anything that need changing, right? So we gained friends and we were like very excited about that. We're like, oh, it's so easy for me to get friends. And don't see that anything needs to be changed, and people have been able to kind of like push through like the gruffness, the kind of like, stone cold, like icy kind of like look that we might put off. You know what I mean? It's just like some people are more, pushy about wanting to be your friend. They see what's underneath, that outer exterior. That's kind of like how I want to say it and try to find the best way to say it. And they become your friends. And so you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really good at making friends because, I made these friends despite how I am, or there's another way that, that we might not be as likable as we think, that we don't consider any behavior and or mindset changes we have had recently and can't see that we are different than we were when we created connections easier. So let's say that earlier in your life, or just in some past time, even like as little as 6 months to a year ago, you were able to make friends so incredibly easily. And you're just like, yeah, I'm making friends, connections, people love me. And then some time has passed, and now you find it incredibly difficult to find friends and gain connections and have relationships, even ones that you currently have, or maybe you've like moved or transitioned in life to something else and just doing different work, different part of town, different city, state, country, whatever. And then you're like, oh my gosh, why? Why am I not able to make friends? Well, maybe it's because you didn't realize that there was some sort of like behavior change. Maybe like making those changes in your life had caused you to be hardened a little bit, and not as nice or kind as you thought you were acting, or a little distant because you're still in mourning from these changes happening in your life, like whatever it was, you know what I mean? So you're not taking into account that these changes have come into your life and have affected you maybe even more than you realize. And that is the reason why it's more difficult to create connections and relationships with people, because you're not seeing that kind of basically you've evolved into a different person for this season of life. And so people may not be as open and rushing to that type of behavior and mindset and personality that you're giving off, right? So, and I have personally experienced that. It's just like we don't realize how hard things can hit us in our lifetime, and then we don't even realize that our behavior has changed, or the things that we say, or how we like connect with people. And it sometimes takes someone to mention that, or be like, oh, why do you act that way? Or maybe seeing someone else from the past that you had already had a connection with, and then being like, oh my gosh, you're different, or this, that, and the other, right? And sometimes we're not always afforded that opportunity for someone from our past to tell us that we're different. And we have to either figure it out on our own, and we kind of put the pieces together that it's not as easy to making friends, or someone just tells us like, oh, okay, what you're doing is just not very likable. You know what I mean? So that's just like some ways where we might not realize that we are not as likable as we think we are, or as we used to be. And, on that, one of the biggest things I know that I struggle with is resting bee face, right? And it's unfortunate, because I didn't always used to be like that when and you might, relate to this, but when I was really struggling with being a people pleaser, I would be smiling all the time. And there were definitely times where I knew that I was like smiling like fake, and just like always wanting to be happy, and just like no matter what was going on, and have that plastered like plastic smile on my face, so that everyone would always feel comfortable when they're around me, on purpose, so that I could just make everyone happy, right? Was the goal. And as I started to, wean off those behaviors and that mindset, that like habit, that bad habit would fall away. And I wasn't always smiling all the time, which people did point out in my life. And I had to be like, oh, well, it's just because I'm thinking, it's that face where you look like stone cold, unapproachable. And like, if you do approach, it won't be a fun time. It's like, ooh, you need to like look out, friend, because it ain't going to be fun if you talk to that person. That's the kind of face that I would have. And that didn't come till like a little bit later. And usually it's not because like I'm angry or that you're angry. Like, if we have like resting bee face or mad or like whatever, like really overwhelming, like, high emotion. For me personally, I usually just look this way because I'm thinking really deeply. I'm thinking really deeply about whatever's going on, or what I need to do next, or problem solving, or whatever it may be. I'm thinking deeply, or I'm unsure of what is going to happen next. So I don't really have any emotion, and I'm kind of trying to figure it out in my mind. And so it's just kind of like a blank canvas, but sometimes that can look really, again, stone cold, not approachable, and like, please don't talk to me kind of thing. And sometimes that's really helpful depending on the situation that you're in. If you really don't want to be spoken to by people that just would make your experience worse, I get it. But a lot of us can just like carry this as we're going like day to day, where we do want to be friendly and talk to people, but we are engaged so deeply in our minds that we don't realize the energy or the face that we're giving off, right? And so, and I'm not saying that we have to totally abandon having like resting bee face or having to smile all the time, because that's absolutely not what I'm going to do. That's not what I'm going to do. And despite like how many men have had tell me in my life, like, why don't you just smile? It's just like, because I don't feel like smiling, and that's okay. And, you don't have to smile all the time. It's just more of like being aware of what that is, being aware of like what you're giving off. And if you're giving that off in a situation where you don't want to be giving that kind of vibe off, then it's good to be aware of it. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're in like a line at the bank, and you really just don't care about relationships and making connections, and you just really need to think deeply about like something that's going on, then like do that. Be yourself, right? Because like having that facial expression, that's just you being you, right? And we need to accept that and acknowledge that. But if you are in a situation where you're going to like an engagement or a party, and you do want to make friends and you do want to make connections, or you're going to like a work kind of convention, trade show, something like that. I went to one of those recently. You got to kind of turn it up a little bit, right? You got to like realize like what vibe you're giving off, because sometimes first impressions are everything. I would say most of the time first impressions are everything. So you got to be more aware of what's happening with your face and your body language and all that stuff, and turn it up a little bit, just a little bit of awareness. But regardless of what the reason is for you, like feeling or knowing you're not likable, like if that's just something that you've decided or based on other people's opinions or your own, it's something most people want to adjust so they can have relationships and live a fuller life with connections and the people in it. And I just want you to know that I was very, very, very careful choosing my words, because I don't want to say that like it's something that people want to fix as if it's like a huge problem, as if it's something that's broken inside of us. It is not. It's merely an adjustment. Again, because if you're going to somewhere that you really just don't care, like that's not your intention, or even like in the smallest way, you just want to like stand in line for this thing because you have to and you want to go back to work or whatever you're doing, then like, just like status quo, like keep it real, just be whatever. But if you know that your desire is to have those connections, relationships, whatever, it's good to like be aware and take it up just a little bit. So here are 6 tips on how to become more likable. But before we get into those tips, as always, I want to remind you that all of this is based on my own knowledge and research and my experience and the experiences of others, and I'm allowed to share. If you find that what I'm about to share with you is not aligning with what you feel would be helpful on how to become more likable, that's totally fine. I would just encourage you to seek a counselor or a therapist so you can have that one-on-one opportunity to chat with them and figure out what would align with you and work best for you to figure out how to become more likable if that is your goal. If you don't want to do that, then the next thing I would suggest for you is to go to our best friend Google and type in how to become more likable. And it'll give you lots of like tips and articles and all kinds of things for you to read up on. And maybe you can find a better answer there. But I'm going to give you 6 tips that I've researched on how to become more likable. And I hope that it is helpful to you. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Number 1 is to, again, this is not based on people pleasing. It's based on just wanting to make connections and friendships and relationships and that stuff like that. Number 1, be interested in others genuinely. I just be interested in others genuinely. I wanted to make sure that we highlighted the word genuinely, because that is like one of the key factors in this tip. Be interested in others genuinely. Find a way to connect with others that isn't fake, right? Don't like pretend that you are into what they're into. Like actually genuinely find a way for you to connect with them. Ask them questions, but without judgment. So if they tell you something that you do not agree with, that doesn't align with like your goals and your thoughts and the way that you live your life and your, values and beliefs and things like that, that's fine. That's fine, because they're living their life and you're living yours. But just ask them more questions. Like, it's actually easier when you don't align with what they do and how they live their life for you to ask questions to understand better, like why they do those things or why they've made these choices, and just really learn more about them. So like, ask them questions, really dig into what they're saying, and try to remember something they tell you about them personally for the next time you connect. So if you're trying to actually build a genuine, true relationship, you want to remember what they're talking about so you can bring it up next time when you have a follow-up conversation. Be like, oh, how's this going? You had mentioned to me last time. Or, oh, how is that person in your life? Or have you tried this because you had mentioned it? Or this, that, and the other, or something that they're interested in. Then you're like, hey, did you hear there's this event that you can go to that's based around this thing that you told me last time you were interested in? You know what I mean? And it's just important for you to try to like cling onto something, again, genuinely, that you can bring up next time and talk to them about, because you want to find that interest, that connection. And sometimes you can get to this tip, like, and it's part of the reason why I put it at the top, is maybe you can't find anything interesting. Maybe you thought you wanted to connect with this person. Maybe you thought you wanted like a platonic or romantic relationship with this person. Then you realize that you don't really have anything that you feel like you can cling to. You don't feel like you actually can find a way to connect that isn't fake. And maybe that'll give you some pause. Maybe that'll give you a little bit more to think about of, oh, is this really something that I want to pursue? Is this really worth it? Do I feel like I'm going to have to be fake and pretend like I care about what they care about. You know what I mean? Opposites attract, and that can still work out. But I'm just saying, like, that might give you an opportunity to really consider, like, if this is worth your time and energy, just to be honest. So be interested in others genuinely, ask questions, find a way to connect. Don't be fake about it, and really try to, like, understand what they're talking about and want to learn more about them. Number 2, be your authentic self. This is a classic tip for wanting to, like, be likable, obviously, but I could not tell you that, because I think it's a reminder that we need probably every other day. Without being dramatic, I totally mean that, because often we feel like we have to pretend to be these people that we are not for people to like us. We feel like we have to be a chameleon and just, like, mimic who they are and what they're about for them to like us, because we know that they like themselves. However, we actually don't know that they like themselves. And maybe the reason that they like you is because you are not like them, and they are trying to find a better way of life. And maybe they want to choose you to look up to be more like you, because you have a lifestyle and the way that you do things and values and things like that, core beliefs that they would like to embody and use you as, like, a model to be like. You know what I mean? And look up to you. So consider that. Please consider that. So be your authentic self. Don't try to be who you think they would like. Be who you truly are, and accept that not everyone is going to like you. That's still going to happen. Despite the fact of wanting to work on being more likable, there's still going to be people that will not like you, will not accept you, and that's fine. We are fine without them. But people will like you more when you are your true self. And whether they find out or not, if you have been being fake, it's worse when they do, right? But if they don't, then don't feel like you got away with murder and you're just like, oh my gosh, they'll never know. They'll never know. No, just be your true self. It's a lot easier, and you don't have to keep up with any lies or any sort of sneaking around or anything. Just be your true self and know that that is the best person that you absolutely could be. Okay? I promise you. Number 3, don't be attention seeking. Don't be attention seeking. Now, maybe I'm calling some people out here. I definitely sometimes was like this in the past, for sure, but it's not necessary to, like, make, like, a big spectacle for people to notice you. It's absolutely not. You don't need to make every conversation about you. Actually, making every conversation about yourself will make you less likable. I'm telling you the truth. You know, this isn't to say that you shouldn't talk about yourself at all. Okay. I want to make that clear, but you need to find that balance. Okay. You need to be able to talk about yourself and share what you are accomplishing in your life and what you enjoy and what's cool to you, but also balancing the conversation with, again, asking that other person questions, being interested in them. And you don't need to be this, like, star in person that's basically on fire for people to notice you and want to, have a relationship with you or connect with you and see you as likable. You can be a complete introvert and just, like, totally chill, right? And only, like, really open up about yourself once they ask you questions and still be considered likable. So it's unnecessary for you to try to draw attention to yourself on purpose. You don't need to do that. Just because some people do that and it's like it does draw people in, there are, like, and just people that are, like, they're so desperate to grab your attention. And this is, I want to make sure that you know that I would not consider, like, influencers online attention seeking. It's more of, like, they are sharing the things that are important to them. Now, the caveat here is that I'm sure there are influencers that are attention seeking, and that's fine. We're all going to live our life a different way. And I don't suggest that that's the way that you should live yours, but you get to make that choice. But I feel like when you're online and you're wanting to share something and talk about something that you're very passionate about, it's not attention seeking. You're just wanting to share with other people things that really make you happy and that you think would make other people happy. So just know that there's a difference and there's a balance there that you just need to find, but you don't need to be attention seeking. It's absolutely not necessary for you to be likable. If anything, it'll cause you to be less likable in most cases. Number four. Number four is be caring to others. Be caring to others. This can be seen as like being a good listener, which means that you are actively listening, which means when they are speaking, you're actually listening to what they're saying and you're not already formulating your response in your mind. You're listening to what they're saying, so you're able to repeat back what they're saying and then ask for a moment to kind of gather your thoughts and then give a response. That is active listening. And so, caring for others can be a good listener, offering help when you can and truly want to help. This is important. You can offer help, but you have to actually have the time and the ability to do so without just like scrapping everything that you actually need to do. And in your heart, truly, deeply, authentically, you need to actually want to help. You need to want to actually want to help. And you can also be supportive when it's necessary. That's also another way to be caring for others. But again, I want to warn you and I want you to be very aware that there is a balance in this because it can easily tilt into people pleasery kind of tone and behaviors. And that's not what you want. You don't want that. Being caring and helpful, very good, very easy way for you to be likable, but to a point that makes sense for you to still prioritize your needs, still put yourself first, because you can't continue to help people and be likable and be there at all if you're not taking care of yourself. Please hear me when I say this to you. It's very, very, very important. Okay? Be caring to others. Have the balance that it's not just all about them. It's also about you too. And you can be a good active listener. You can offer help and you can be supportive, but you don't have to give your whole self for that to qualify as something nice and to be seen as likable. Okay, number 5, be confident in yourself. You might think, well, how? How is being confident like being likable? Sometimes it can be annoying. Yeah, sure. But it just depends on how people see it and their personal perspective. Like I said, not everyone's going to like you despite being and working on being likable. It's just not going to happen. But it's important to be confident in yourself. You need to, build up your belief in yourself and your abilities. Know that you are good at things. Admit to yourself that you know that you're good at things. You do not have to lower who you are. You don't have to dumb anything down. You can just be like, yeah, I'm really good at this thing and I'm really good at this and I'm working on becoming better at this, and having confidence and belief in yourself, the things that you are good at, the things you're excelling at, the things that you're working on, the things that you're not so good at and that you are doing your best on, right? Practice feeling confident and knowing you can persevere and push through whatever comes your way, even if you need to ask for help, because asking for help is not a bad thing. It's actually an amazing gift to the person that accepts your need for help, right? So be confident in yourself. People will see that as likable because they're like, oh my gosh, they actually believe in themselves. They're not continuously saying bad things about themselves, crapping on themselves, downing on themselves. And that is admirable. And that is something to look up to. And also something that draws people in because they're like, oh my goodness, how are you doing this? And people want to engage with you and have relationships with you because they want to know what you're doing and see if it will work for them. And you shouldn't just be confident. Again, let's not go back to trying to draw attention to ourselves, but just be confident in who you are, because that just creates this bright radiating light around you that is so positive and just draws people in so naturally. It just truly does. And we just need to continue to, admit that to the world. Just let our lights truly shine. As cheesy as that sounds, it's true. And it's just so magnificent. It just is. I'm laughing, but also smiling and also just excited. So let's continue that. Let's just keep doing that or start doing that if we aren't. Be confident in yourself. Okay, number 6, and the last one that we're going to talk about today is don't always be a downer. Don't always be a downer. This is really just a reminder that it's good and healthy to share what we're going through with people that are emotionally available for venting, but we can't be spilling our problems and dirty laundry all the time. Okay? We can't just constantly be like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And it's all negative things. Again, we need balance here, right? No one wants to be around someone that only talks about their problems. and never can see the silver linings and like the wider perspectives of what they're going through. So if you do want to share something, again, please ask that person if they are like, is it okay that they vent to you, and like find out if they say yes or no, right? Actually, like ask them to think about it. Be like, yeah, I have something heavy that I'd like to get off my chest. And if you are emotionally available to listen to that, that'd be great. If not, I totally respect that. Like really ask people, really ask them. Don't just assume because they're your friend or their sister or your family member or even your like romantic partner. Ask them, hey, can I talk to you about this? Would that be okay? Because you don't know what mental state they are right now. You can't read their mind despite how long you've known them. Please don't do that, okay? Ask them and then share with them if they say it's okay. But if you're just going around just telling everyone and telling multiple people all the struggles and the problems that you're going through and just airing all your dirty laundry all the time, no one wants to hang out with people that just do that all the time, especially if you're not adding in some positive things that are happening or silver linings or how you're seeing it as like lessons learned and things that'll make you stronger and help you push forward. And you're really just having a pity party for one, really leaning into that victim mentality. That's not cool. That's not likable. It's just not. I'm not saying that you can't feel your emotions and you can't share them with the world, but you need to have a balance with that because you need to. And usually when you are oversharing what's going on in your life, you are very unbalanced and you're seeking attention and you want to ask for help, but you're really just projecting your insecurities onto others of not asking for help. And you have a problem with personal boundaries for sure. For sure. So just a couple of things to think about. It's really important that, you find the people that you should talk to about it and then know that you don't need to talk to everyone about it. But yeah, don't always be a downer because that will prevent people from seeing you as likable and then maybe not wanting to engage with you as much, especially if you're really wanting to create like deepened relationships with these people. But that's it. That's all of the 6 tips I have for you on how to become more likable, which are really just being more approachable and friendly when you are actually wanting to make connections and have relationships and be open and nice to people. So hopefully all those tips have helped you. And yeah, if you find it helpful, please share it with someone else. But thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, with me, Sabrina. I appreciate everyone that listens and downloads and shares the show. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're just absolutely amazing. And well, until next time, have a good one. And I will see y'all next time. And I appreciate every single one of you. Bye.